Happiness is an achieved life. Happiness is not about what happens to us but how we interpret what happens. It depends on our interpretation of reality. Happiness is creating a small work of art with our life, with our talents. However, happiness depends on the meaning we give to life, and in a society that has lost its sense, that has lost its direction, we replace meaning with sensations. This world suffers from a great spiritual void, leading us to a frantic search for relaxation methods, bodily satisfactions, food, wine, sexual topics, massages, and all things digital. These may not necessarily be bad, but they replace the true purpose of life. We need to return to values. Values are what make us grow as individuals, what perfects us, and what guides us in times of chaos and uncertainty. Happiness is not fundamentally defined, happiness is experienced, and there is only one antidote for those moments, and that is love. Love for a person, falling in love, truly caring for someone. I like to say that deep within each of us, there are hidden treasures that are revealed when we truly love. Love opens us up and gives us wings to achieve anything. Love for a person, love for others, love for ideals and beliefs. Confucius said it's not life's circumstances that make people happy, but their ideals. We have all read biographies of individuals who, despite adverse circumstances, were happy because they were consistent with their ideals. 90% of people don't know why they wake up every morning. We have lost the reasons to be joyful, and often sadness, resentment, and bad moods dictate our lives. As a psychiatrist, I define happiness as living in a balanced way in the present, having overcome past wounds, and looking forward with enthusiasm to the future. Those who remain attached to the past are the depressed, the resentful, the bitter. Those who constantly worry about the future are the anxious. Depression and anxiety are the two major illnesses of the 21st century. We have forgotten that we only have the capacity to act in the here and now. 90% of the things we worry about never happen, but our body and mind experience them as real. Our mind and body cannot distinguish between reality and imagination. When we subject ourselves to such thoughts, our body activates its alert system. The difference is, we don't run away. The resources that my body has activated for that moment of alertness are not used, but they become toxic due to cortisol. Cortisol intoxication affects us on 3 levels. Physically, our hair starts falling out, our eye twitches, we feel a lump in our throat, and we experience gastrointestinal issues. We feel pressure in our chest, muscle contractions, and overall bodily fatigue. We have sleep problems, we lie in bed at night and can't sleep, or we have frequent awakenings. Cortisol significantly disrupts our sleep. Psychologically, we become irritable, everything and everyone gets on our nerves, we are constantly on edge, and we cannot enjoy anything. We have concentration problems and memory issues. On the behavioral level, we lose the desire to go out, talk, or engage. We isolate ourselves. We know that managing emotions and thoughts has a profound impact on our hormones, thyroid issues, muscle problems like fibromyalgia, and even on cancer. Mentally, it affects us with conditions like dementia. In the past, one could relax and keep the mind blank, but now, one can't be without checking the phone, which Americans call FOMO, fear of missing out, the fear of missing something on WhatsApp, Twitter, Instagram, or the news. Constantly checking these things elevates cortisol. One thing that raises cortisol is what I call chronoparadox, the obsession with making the most of time. Another thing that elevates cortisol significantly is the constant need to stay connected. Nowadays, social media addiction is being treated with the same medication as cocaine addiction. From ages 9 to 14, when adolescence begins, so does frustration. During that moment of frustration, we all seek an escape, whether it's fashion, food, chocolate, alcohol, or marijuana. But our brain holds onto that escape route. And when I'm 40 years old and overwhelmed, if I lose my job or my wife says she's leaving me, my brain reminds me of what gave me peace during adolescence. Nowadays, all young people know how to seek relaxation through screens. They connect better with a screen than with a human being. Therefore, elevated cortisol, the chronoparadox of living connected, and the constant need for control are common. We must realize that today our minds tend to dominate, to order, to control. We follow the dictates of reason, becoming beings who forget that the mind is becoming a great tyrant, not leaving room for what's most important, the heart. The mind needs to control everything, especially the future. It's a perfectionist, and by definition, the perfectionist is eternally dissatisfied and unable to enjoy because nothing ever lives up to their expectations. Victor Pauchet once said, the most productive work comes from a contented man. The winners are those who enjoy their work. This means that if I constantly judge and pursue perfection, I can't enjoy it. The perfectionist, the one who needs to control their business, their family, their children, is constantly suffering because they sometimes seek an unrealistic level. Being a perfectionist is exhausting, and one constantly compares themselves to others superficially, not understanding what's truly happening. How to lower that famous cortisol? Because we all know at least one person who is intoxicated by cortisol. First, exercise. Exercise generates endorphins, which raise endorphin levels and lower cortisol. Cortisol from exercise is eliminated through the liver. Second, positive thoughts. Your attitude before any circumstance, whether it's a work meeting, a romantic date, or an exam, determines how you respond to it. Today, we know that when you wake up in the morning and say, "I think it's going to be a good day," your prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for concentration, planning, and problem solving, increases blood flow and connections. Be careful with self-sabotage, which leads to failure even before starting. Just thinking, "I can do it," activates my brain so I can know and be capable of doing it. The difference between our best version and our worst version is the attitude we have toward life. Success consists of willpower, order, perseverance, plus knowledge. My father used to say, "Reading is to the mind what exercise is to the body." It's important to return to the foundations of culture and reading, along with willpower, knowledge, a positive attitude, scientifically proven, and a life plan. That's the equation. You need a project, a plan. Dream big, act small, go for it. Few things have caused as much harm as the belief that things will come when you least expect them. That's a lie. Nobody is going to come to your house and say, "I've been waiting for you my whole life." For your business to succeed, you have to go out there. Focus more on solving a problem than on the problem itself. Don't get caught in a mental loop about the problem, instead, focus on how to solve it. Another thing that disturbs us greatly is toxic people. We all have someone in our lives who, just by thinking about them, causes a spike in cortisol. To counteract this, you first need to distance yourself and ask, do I really want this person to have so much influence in my life? Do I want to give them this power? Second, ask yourself why they upset you so much. Is it a universal toxicity that affects everyone, or is it something specific to you? If it's personal, seek help. Try to understand what triggers your reactions. Does it make you feel judged, attacked, or undervalued? Is it a matter of vanity or pride? It's essential to know what it triggers in you and then work on understanding it. Understanding why this person acts this way towards you can bring relief, and forgiveness is an act of love. Beware of holding on to grudges, as it can lead to revenge and hatred. As my father has always said, happiness consists of good health and a bad memory. Be cautious of grudges, as they can turn your life into a quest for revenge and hatred. People with grudges become ill. Forgiveness has two aspects. Immediate forgiveness, even if you don't feel it completely, helps alleviate the tension or feelings at that moment, even if you think it's the other person's fault. Say "forgive me" because it eases the situation. My father has a saying that when people argue, the more generous one should apologize to the other, even if it's not their fault, because it helps. The second aspect of forgiveness is the long-term one, where forgiveness means giving up hatred and revenge. Forgiveness means going back to the past and coming back healthy and unharmed. Sometimes forgiveness is difficult, and it's not something easy to do. We must avoid playing the victim and try to avoid toxic mental landscapes. Instead, we should see the person who has hurt us as worthy of compassion. The foundation of a healthy brain is kindness. We should base our relationships on what unites us rather than what separates us. We may always find thousands of arguments to separate, but we must come together. Compassion is superior to empathy. Empathy is the ability to put oneself in another's shoes, while compassion is putting myself in your place but with tools to lift you up. We need to look within ourselves again. When I talk about all of this, I also speak about the need to learn to stop, to slow down, to observe, and to enjoy. You may have noticed that to truly observe and contemplate, you need to stop. When you're running, you don't perceive beauty. We look at the clock so much that we don't give time to what's truly important. Take a Sunday afternoon and put your phone on airplane mode without worrying about missing a call or constantly being concerned about news or tweets. Nothing terrible will happen. We don't need to be connected 24 hours a day. We need to learn to lose a little time while gaining peace and serenity. When stress threatens to invade, when you fear losing control, when suddenly your mind feels exhausted and lacks resources, when your body doesn't respond, your heart will take over. Because when you put your heart into something small, it becomes something big and wonderful.